If you've struggled with stress, balance, or burnout, and simply feel discouraged or even defeated, and if you're ready to move from force to flow and enjoy ultimate Zen success in your career, health, or relationships, then the Zen Success Show is for you. Your host, Carissa Sims, is an entrepreneur, corporate consultant, best-selling author, meditation teacher, and healer who has found her own Zen success. Here's your host, Carissa Sims.
Welcome to this week's episode of Zen Success. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Debra Parker Oliver. Welcome, Debra.
Hi.
Do you like to be called Debbie?
Debbie, yes, please.
Okay. Let me share a little bit about Debbie. She is the Ira Kodner Professor of Research in Supportive Care at Washington University. She has a Master's of Social Work and a PhD in Rural Sociology from the University of Missouri. She was a hospice social worker and administrator in 3 hospice programs for a total of more than 20 years. After getting her doctorate, she continued her commitment to the importance of hospice care through research with more than 200 peer-reviewed articles related to palliative and hospice care. And she is the author of Legacies from the Living Room, a love-grief equation. So happy to have you here on my show today, Debbie.
Thank you. You hear those things, you go, is that me? Oh, yeah.
That's me. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Yeah, well, I would love to hear about your book, Legacies from a Living Room. Can you share about the inspiration behind it, what it's about, and all of that? I mean, you have so much background and research and articles that you've written. I mean, we have so much to talk about, but I would love to start off with that.
That sounds great. My husband was diagnosed with stage 4 nasopharyngeal cancer. And so my professional worlds and my personal worlds collided head on.
Wow.
And it was a 42-month journey. And during that time, I journaled as a way to survive. And he wrote a book. He was also a professor at the University of Missouri at the time. And he wrote his account, and he always laughed and told me that I'd end up writing a book. And I always said, no, there's no way I could do that. And sure enough, a couple of years after he died, I started thinking, and I looked through my journal notes, and I'm like, I think I can do this. And I have a different perspective.
What was the name of his book?
Exit Strategy. And it's an ebook. We never got it printed because he passed before it all got totally finished.
Right.
And I thought, I have something different to offer.
Yes.
Because I'm the other side of the equation. And we used to talk about how there were 2 patients in the drama and that I was one of them. And so I decided to go ahead and embrace it. And so I learned how to write a memoir. And it's a family memoir. It's a little unique because I had someone else interview all of our children and grandchildren. And so their voice is present in the book as well. And it goes from diagnosis until after his death, where we share our experience.
Oh, that's wonderful. So why did you decide to have someone else interview your family? Did you feel like you wanted a more authentic response, that they might hold something back from you?
Yeah, and I just thought that outside perspective, to ask them questions that I might make assumptions about and not ask, was really valuable. And it was very, very important. And 2 of my grandchildren, the oldest 2, were interviewed as well. And that was particularly enlightening. We had shared, as a family, we went through all of this together and we shared everything. But to hear them think back and share was particularly important. And their voice comes through loud and clear as I incorporate their feelings too.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So what was the purpose? Was this your own healing journey in writing this, putting this together for the family, or were helping to share with others? What was the purpose behind it?
The personal benefit to me was a side effect.
Oh,
My primary reason was because I did a lot of public speaking about our experience. We had been on CBS This Morning. We had created a series of YouTube videos to teach medical students. So I did, and I had done a lot of teaching of medical students. So then I started getting asked to do speeches at state hospice associations, in the National Hospice Association, even the National Academy of Medicine. And people would ask me if I had written, and I'd written a few essays, but hadn't written the whole story. And so when people started asking, I'm like, and I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful, because it was
yeah.
really a great experience.
The universe kept nudging you, right? Many times.
Yeah, you know, sometimes we just can't ignore those things.
Yes, that's so true. Well, what kind of awards or accolades have you received from the book so far?
Well, because it's a self-published book, it was entered into the Indie Book Awards, and it was a finalist in that
Congratulations.
arena. And then most recently, I was honored that Jack Canfield, author of Chicken Soup for the Soul series, had read it and did an interview with me and just loved it. And so I have his accolades as well. But it was a
That's
finalist.
pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting, because I had expected some criticism, and actually had thought about even like redoing some of it. And he goes, "Don't change a thing. Don't change a thing."
Oh
Kept
my
me.
God.
He said I was cussing you at 2 a.m. because it was keeping me awake. And I'm like, oh, that's so exciting.
Oh, that's amazing.
But
And
it is an emotional read, and so it comes with that warning. I mean, I wrote with the raw emotion that I was feeling at the time, and that makes it an authentic voice, I think.
when did your husband pass away?
It was 9 years ago. It's amazing how time flies, and how many things change, and yet the issues still seem so real, and things haven't changed. The healthcare system and all of its challenges, which we write a great deal about, hasn't changed. The emotions and the process hasn't changed. The cures haven't changed, ironically. And so it's timeless in that way.
Yeah, that's amazing. Would you share about your own journey through grief?
You know, having had the professional experience, and walked with many people through it, I still learned so much. I had no idea. I experienced a lot of anticipatory grief. I think my number one challenge in dealing with the whole process was not to get caught in that anticipatory grief. That's very, very easy to do.
That's
And
interesting. And can you talk about that a little bit before you go on? Like, what is that?
you know,
Anticipating their death?
yeah, and
Oh.
you think about it so much. What am I going to do? What's it going to be like? How am I going to survive?
Yeah.
Remember, in the middle of the night, especially as he was sleeping and I wasn't, I would think about that, and I would cry and get anxious and concerned. And you can get caught up in that in such a way that you can't enjoy today because of your fear of tomorrow. And I think that was my biggest choice. And then I thought, okay, I've grieved so much during this 42 months that surely it will make it easier after. Not true. The subtitle of the book, The Love Grief Equation, comes from David taught our kids this: the more you love, the more you grieve. And if you love a little bit, you grieve a little bit. If you love a lot, you grieve a lot. I think I'll grieve for a lifetime, because he was the love of my life. There's no question about that.
You're going to make me cry.
And we really did have an amazing love story. And so when grief hit, of course, like everyone else, at first even though it was expected and we had a beautiful bedside experience, I was with him, I was holding his hand. It was exactly everything that we wanted it to be. You're kind of relieved in a way that the suffering and the burden is over, and you're in shock, so your emotions are sheltered, but that all peels away. And then the raw pain of loss. And as a spouse, and our work and our professional lives were together because we rode to work every day together. We'd have lunch together. We had the same students. We would compare notes.
Wow.
He
You
taught
were
me how to write.
really
Yeah, I
entwined.
mean, we were everything. And he taught me to write and was my mentor through my PhD program. And so what I didn't expect was that every aspect of my life would change, every single one, because my entire identity and my daily routine, everything was wrapped around that relationship. It was that, I think that's kind of the very definition of a good marriage. But it does make the grieving much harder because the hole is very, very large and there's no one rushing in to fill it. And it's a journey that you get a lot of attention at first, but you pretty much go through it by yourself and find your way. And the average age of widows in this country is actually only like 55, 56. That's shocking to a lot of people. And that's about the age I was. So still what I consider to be pretty young.
That seems young. Mm-hmm.
And my children were grown. And so this was the first experience I had of living alone. And while I do a lot of public speaking about the dying and the early grief, I don't talk much about the widowhood and the later stages of grief, because it's still really hard. And I still to this day am finding my way through, figuring out your finances. There literally is no aspect of your world that's not touched with the death of your spouse. And your relationship with your children is different. They're grieving. You're trying to be a mother and a grandmother, and your nature is to comfort your children. And yet that's really hard when you're going through this experience yourself. And so it's a daily journey.
Yeah, I can imagine. And would you mind sharing your love story, how you and your husband met? Because I was like, oh, this is interesting to me.
Yeah, it's a second marriage for both of us.
Okay.
My children, there was 18 years difference in our ages.
And he was
He
older?
was older than
Okay.
I was, but physically stronger and in better shape. His
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And I always leaned on him. And his two sons were, I think they're 12 and 15 years younger than I am. And he had been married for a long period of time, and children grew up, and one of those things where it's like, oh, things are different now. And my world fell apart. My children were young. When we got married, our youngest daughter was 3, and the oldest was 10. And so they were young, and they were girls, and 3 girls. And so we had to learn how to make a family. It was more than the two of us. I never planned on falling in love. I never thought of him in that way. We were great friends.
Oh, you were friends. I see.
We were friends. We knew each other professionally. We were both employed at the same place. And it just happened. It was the strangest thing. All of a sudden, one day I look at him through new eyes and think, oh, wow. Lo and behold, and he fell in love with my children, I think, before me. He said he
Oh.
always wanted girls, and so he ended up with 3 daughters who
Oh.
adore him. They have
And how did the kids get along?
it was rough at first. It was very rough. It was, I think, there were tensions between he and his sons. You can imagine their world fell apart very unexpectedly. They thought everything was fine, and that they have their own journey. And one of the most beautiful parts, and I think the most beautiful thing that happened with David's experience, is that once the diagnosis came, we joined together as a family. And
Got you closer.
we all got close, and it was 100% everybody looking out for everybody else. And we're still close to this day, which is wonderful. His grandkids are my grandkids, and love them in the same way. And we've all remained close, and the kids are all very close, which is really wonderful, and I'm grateful for that. After 2 years after we also lost my grandson, who's in the book, to suicide, unfortunately. And
How old was he when he came?
24.
Oh,
And so we had to come together again in a
mm.
very unique way. And so that path to being a family was rocky, and it makes you appreciate it when it all falls together all the more.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Well, how do you help teach and advocate for those facing cancer and terminal illness? Because you write about it, you write articles, peer-reviewed research, and also you have your book. How do you help? Are you going to seminars? Are you being asked to speak?
I do a lot of public speaking. My research focuses on trying different strategies to make the caregiving experience easier.
Oh, that's so helpful.
Like measuring, we do online support groups for hospice caregivers. When you're caring for somebody with any serious illness, let alone a terminal illness, you're very isolated, and you're not able to get out and have those same social connections. And the people in your world want to help, but they don't really know how to help. And you don't really want to burden everybody else with what's going on, and you have all these complicated feelings. And so you're isolated in your home and you can't get out. And the best way to share that is with somebody else going through the same exact thing. So we ran a 5-year clinical trial on support groups, and sure enough, it really does benefit and help moderate depression, especially, and anxiety.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so now part of my work is how do we get those implemented places? It's easier said than done, actually. Come to find out. And we do other
Yeah,
kinds
there's
of
a lot of like red tape and
right.
people
And,
have
and
their
we teach a
process.
lot of problem solving, how to do good structured problem solving. And so our research is all focused in on caregivers. And a lot of my public speaking is focused on healthcare professionals and how they can help the process, because caregivers have been ignored. Everybody talks about
That's so
patient-focused
true.
care.
That's true.
Patient-centered care
Yeah,
is the thing, and
right.
it's family-centered care. Cancer and terminal illness, serious illnesses, are
Yeah.
family diseases.
Yeah. So you
And
want to
so,
reframe the whole terminology into family centered.
and it's, you go into the doctor's office and the doctor speaks to the patient, which is good, sit and talk, but there's this whole other side that a caregiver sees as the patient's trying to be a good patient. I'll never forget, we go into the doctor's office. How you doing, David? And he go, I'm great. Couldn't be better. And I'm like, wait, hold on. You were puking your guts out last night. How can you say that? And what
Yeah.
about this and that? And he goes, well, I don't want to be a complainer. I'm like, no, we're going to complain. That's the only way we're
Yeah.
going to fix the problems. And so teaching care professionals, all disciplines, that you need to look at the whole picture. And if the caregiver goes down and gets sick, has to go in the hospital, exhausted, mental health problems, none of what you prescribe is going to work, because it's the caregiver that has to take care of all of that, manage all of that. So I do a lot of focusing on that as well. And then I love talking to people who are caregiving also. And by sharing your story, other people share their story, and we learn from one another. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah. I was, I guess, taking care of my father, but he wouldn't really let me take care of him very much, but he was living with us. He's just very stubborn, I think. And until the end of his life, when he was going to the ER, then he would let me, but that time he was losing cognitive abilities. And it was just interesting because I didn't feel, even though I have power of medical attorney, I didn't feel like I was a part of the team. You know what I mean? No one talked to me, no one asked me anything. They still just treated him like he did know what he was doing. And he wasn't in that state at that point in the game. So it was just interesting, that experience. And I actually have a medical background. I'm an occupational therapist. I've worked in hospitals. I can speak the language. I know the whole dynamic, but it was just interesting to experience that. But my father had cancer as well.
I have just finished taking care of my mother, who had Lewy body dementia and passed away this last March.
Oh,
and the difference.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that. And I'm so glad you were there for her.
The difference between taking care of somebody with dementia and somebody with cancer is night and day.
Yes, I can imagine.
The quality of their experience and the type of experience they had, the type of experience that I had, was completely different. That's something that I'm going to be exploring more as I go through the grief process with my mom.
Yeah. Another book, maybe?
I would not be surprised, quite frankly. The way we take care of dementia in this country is absolutely appalling. I mean, it's
I don't really know from personal experience, but I can imagine.
Our medical system's not equipped. Our physicians are not well trained. Just getting the diagnosis was very difficult. The shortage of geriatricians in this country who understand dementia is real, and I'm in a metropolitan area with a major institute or university here. I was amazed, and the drugs don't work well. Psychiatric medications are completely different, and managing those symptoms is very different than managing the symptoms of cancer. And that's what I mean. The more you learn, the more that you know things don't change. The problems remain. And our healthcare system is still not really focused on these kinds of things. We're all about going to war and battling these diseases and curing them and fixing them. And we're trying to cure Alzheimer's, which is a noble effort, but we got to learn to live with it, because it's no cure, and families have to live with it. And those that keep their loved ones in their homes and I was not able to do that with Mom, but those that do are saints. I mean,
truly.
absolute saints.
Yeah.
And their world is what I experienced times 100. And no one pays attention to that either. And it's
so
rough.
Your mom was in a home, and then
you went to an assisted
the home, and then you had the power of medical attorney, so you could manage the care.
Yeah. And I went every day, and she was in a good quality place, but I've done enough nursing home research to know that you need to be present. If the more present you are, the better care they get. And
that's good insight. You knew that right away?
Yeah. And their hearts are all in the good place, and it's expensive, and yet the workers there are not well trained. They could make a lot more money doing other kinds of healthcare. Their conditions are not always great, and
Oh, so
they
that's
work
that's one of the
hard.
problems is that they're not getting compensated as much.
Right. Their compensation's much lower. Their appreciation is much lower. Their patients are all confused. And so
Mhm.
they see a lot of heartbreak. They have some intrinsic rewards to that, but I saw them go through so much. They went through so much with my mom, whose
Mm.
personality changed completely. And from this sweet little independent woman came this very angry, depressed, and anxious person that you don't know anymore. And they're dealing with all of this 24 hours a day. And very difficult. And then she starts falling and she starts getting worse. And so she needs to go to a higher level of care where they have more nursing assistants. Only she doesn't quite qualify for that. And she doesn't quite qualify for this. And this rule says that. And she's a fall risk now, because of all the medications. So we can't accept her, and her behavior's not quite right. So we can't accept her. And you end up with nobody being able to take care of them. And this is a
Yeah.
problem people face every single day. I had no idea. I had no idea about that.
It's so interesting. I agree. We experienced that with my grandmother, and we ended up putting her in a home that was close to us, and it was run by the caregivers, and they were so loving and amazing. They cooked the food, and they accepted her. Of course, it was private pay and everything. So like with insurance and everything, it can get complicated. Because they only accept a certain number of beds as like falling under their purview. But there was, I think, five other clients in the home. And
Nice and small then.
yeah, and it was really wonderful. It was like a family atmosphere, but I don't know what the answer is. That was just so
Nope.
lucky that someone decided to start a home. It seems like there is a market for that, like
And
where they don't
the
get in
VA has done a
somewhere.
lot with that. The VA has a
The
lot of what they
VA has
call
that. Oh, good.
foster homes.
Oh,
And and I think that's what we're going to have to do, is be really creative.
yeah,
And even in
interesting.
the hospice world, and with my husband, not everybody can put their job and their lives on hold to take care of somebody at home for an unknown period of time
Yeah. In fact,
with
most people
only
can't.
intermittent help. Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky. I could take intermittent family leave, and my job was really flexible, and my kids
Mm.
could come and stay and help, so I could go and teach and then come back home. But even if you don't work, even if you're 85 years old and you're trying to take care of your 85-year-old husband, the physical care that's required is very, very difficult. And we put it all on the backs of family caregivers. And it's what the whole entire hospice Medicare benefit is all about, keeping people in their home. And that sounds wonderful. And it is wonderful. My husband had it exactly the way that he wanted to have it, but not everybody can do it.
Mm.
And
It's unrealistic for everyone. You're
it
right.
truly is. And hospice is an amazing thing. And I'm a #1 hospice advocate, but they're not there all the time. Even at the end, even at the very end in the last few days, which I've just completed a big study looking at the last 7 days of life and the challenges that caregivers face in those last 7 days, when symptoms are way out of control and you have to stay right on top of it. You're giving a lot of medications. You can't get any sleep. Um, Problems are happening. And as great as hospice is, they come in and they leave, and they come in and they leave. And in the middle of that, there you are trying to figure it out. And they may be there by phone, but that's not the same thing, especially if you've got your own health problems, or you don't have a large family to try to help out, and things get a little out of control and get a little crazy. So
Mm,
we've built a system that's very, very difficult, and
mm.
not all people have flexible jobs. I think that's easier now than it has been. More people do work from home, but to work at the same time that my husband's dying in the room next door is tough. And
Wow, that's
and
intense.
we don't make accommodations for that.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And there are inpatient hospice units more and more in
Mm.
the country, but payment for those is difficult,
Mm.
and it's not cheap. Not everybody can afford it. Um, Washington University, we have an amazing inpatient hospice facility, and we're
Oh,
able to offer care regardless if people can pay, but it's very difficult, and it's a job that requires the donation and generosity of lots of people in order to make that happen. And you can't just get in for no reason. You need to have something wrong that needs to be taken care of in order to make that work.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Well, is there a high demand for that? Is there a waiting list for
There
your
is a very
program?
high demand, often a waiting
Oh,
list, and we're
wow.
working to try to expand it. The St.
Oh,
Louis community has been very generous at raising money to make that happen. A lot of hospice inpatient facilities have had to close across the country because of lack of resources.
oh,
And it's not paid for by Medicare unless under very narrow circumstances,
I see.
with some very aggressive symptom management and some. But if you are just dying, whatever that means, you may not qualify.
Oh,
Uh,
you mean you have to have some kind of diagnosis?
Something needs to be actively wrong that is being treated in a way that can't be treated at home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to be, quote, skilled care. Now, what is skilled care to you and I? I mean, if you're putting an IV in somebody and you're monitoring medication, that to us is pretty skilled, right? Because we're not trained in how to do that. But that's not necessarily trained enough unless you end up having to go to, really heavy duty medications. Or so the definitions and the coverage is very particular and very challenging. And
Mm.
families don't know that and are surprised oftentimes. And it's nothing about you don't have anybody at home that can help you. The
Mm-hmm.
caregiver is 85 years old and can't. It's none of those kinds of situations. It's purely the physical status of the patient. And
Interesting.
without a family, there's not much support there. So that can be challenging.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
It took three of us to manage my husband in the last 3 days, my two daughters and
Mm.
myself, rotating sleeping hours. We were giving medicine every single hour. That's not at all uncommon.
Mm.
And you have to have enough resources and be prepared for that in order to make that work. And a lot of
Mm.
people.
Yeah, yeah, good point. Or maybe family members don't want to do that. It's too painful. I mean, maybe they have the flexibility, but it's intense. I mean, it's, very challenging, I'm sure.
Everybody handles this very differently. And
Hmm.
yeah, wanting to is not a part of, you don't agree to it. It just happens, right?
Yeah.
Nobody asks. There's no choice involved. It's that you just do what you have to do. And payers, be it insurance or none of that matters to them. The rules it's all based on the fact that we have somebody that's going to step up and do that.
Yeah.
Fair and unfair.
Would you share about the blog you created with your husband?
Yeah, we from the very beginning we got the news and we're like, how do we share this with our colleagues? And so at that time, video cameras were newer, and we decided we'd make a video because we were going to be going to chemotherapy treatments. We were going to miss our faculty meeting, and David knew everybody, and everybody adored him, and he wanted to be able to personally tell people. We teach medical students how to break bad news, so we use the same kind of approach. And I was behind the video camera, crying my eyes out, videotaping him as he's breaking the bad news. So we sent it, we set it up, They showed it at faculty meeting. We got so much love and so many questions. And he sent it to his youngest son, who is in public relations field, is a graphic artist. And he goes, "This is fantastic. This needs to go on YouTube. This could go viral." And we're like, "What? Nah." He goes, "No, you should do more of this." And from that moment on, David's like, that we got a lot we can share. We can teach our med students, if no one else, what it's really like. What are we thinking? What is taking chemotherapy like? What is it like for radiation therapy? What are our challenges? So we ended up making 26 YouTube videos, and we would post them to YouTube and send them out. And they're still getting views. They're still used in classrooms. I still get notes about them regularly. And they were therapeutic for us because they forced us to look at our situation. What are the teachable moments? And how do we make this hopeful instead of negative? And after we'd done 3 or 4 of them, an Associated Press reporter found out about it. And so then a story ran, and then we were on CBS, this Today Show, and talked about those videos. And so they did get a lot of coverage, and they're pretty powerful to watch. And we're both in them, even our dog stars, and even our grandson. And I think they teach people a lot in a way that you don't see. People don't talk about this. And we encourage open communication. We call it depriving death of its strangeness, because it's going to happen. And so we might as well get comfortable and learn to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Did you receive an award for the blog?
We did, through the American Academy of Hospice and Palliative Medicine. We got a community education award for doing that. And our focus on trying to take the world along on the journey with us. So that was a huge honor. We got that 2 weeks before David died. So he did know about it. He wanted so much to go to Boston to accept that. But there was no way at that point. And matter of fact, I wasn't sure I would get to go. The hospice nurse was like, I can't promise you that something's not going to happen while you're gone. And I was going to be there. I was not going to not be by his side when he died. And he just threw a fit and insisted. And he goes, "I will not die while you're gone." I'm like, "You can't promise me that." And he's like, "I will do anything. I will do everything you tell me. I will do anything. Have anybody you want." So my son-in-law went, who's a nurse. He went and sat with him the whole 3 days I was gone. We were able to pipe him into the awards ceremony so he could be a participant in it, at least the audio of that. And it was very, very touching. But yeah, it was in some ways the last hurrah for him, because it wasn't maybe 3 days after I got back home that he lost consciousness. So
wow, that is a powerful story. That's incredible. So the name of my show is Zen Success. What do you think of? What is Zen success to you?
To me, it is, how do we handle all of this? How do we help people handle all of this? How do you take care of yourself in the midst of trying to take care of other people? How do you make the balance in the stress in order to survive 42 months of that? And everybody copes a little bit differently. And I think you need a toolbox that has lots of coping mechanisms, not just one. And so by sharing our stories, we learn from one another some hints about how we get through this kind of stuff. That's how I see it.
That's beautiful. Well, it's been such a pleasure connecting with you, Debbie, and hearing about your love story and your book, Legacies from the Living Room, A Love Grief Equation. And I'll put your website and how to order your book in the show notes. So thanks for being on my show today, Debbie.
Thank you very much. And my email is on my website, and I'm always anxious and happy to hear from anybody.
Oh, well, thanks for saying that. That's so generous of you. I appreciate that.
People
And I'm
out there are
sure,
alone, and I don't want anyone to be alone. So don't hesitate to contact me.
wow. Thank you for that offer. And everyone, she means it. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Thank you
reach
so
out.
much, and I appreciate you having me on.
My pleasure.
That's it for today's episode of Zen Success. Head on over to iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show and share with friends. Be sure to head on over to ZenSuccessShow.com to help you on your Zen success journey. And join us on the next episode. May you find your own Zen success in life.
With the state of today's economy, it's more important than ever to invest in products that last for years to come. As the seasons shift and get cooler, make sure your closet is stocked with durable layers that stand the test of time from American Giant. American Giant's clothes work harder and are wearable season after season. Their greatest hoodie ever made is made from the highest quality materials that are cut and sewn right here in the United States. So you're investing right back in your local community. Choosing American Giant means taking a stand for American manufacturing and hardworking Americans, something other mega corporations don't care about. From fleece to knit, all in a range of colors for versatile daily wear, American Giant delivers everyday pieces designed for everyday life. Feel the difference of quality, made-to-last clothes from American Giant. Get 20% off your first order with code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with code STAPLE20.